Okay, welcome everyone to the Toku Portal podcast. It's me, Zero, here with.
Right. Uh, just us again tonight. Welcome to Kamen Rider Zi-O, episode 32. So we open up where we left off. Agito, Tsukuyomi is being attacked by Schwartz, and Agito shows up to save her. And he gets ganged up on by all the Nether Agito. And so now he's fighting them alone. And so we open up with basically like a full solid minute of classic Agito fighting. He even does like a form change. Like they either still had or remade some of his suits.
Uh, I mean, I'm pretty sure because like Agito's form changes is just like the like armor changes. Um, well, that's not true. That's only in Trinity form. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Agito is like one of the suits that like probably pretty easy. Again, it's just armor pieces, right? That change. So I'm pretty sure they have the original because their Toei is fucking cheap. They're not remaking a suit. Like literally, Blade is the main rider, and his suit is falling apart. Like that helmet's falling apart, but they're not gonna remake that shit. So they must have just had the old suits, which just goes to show that like how timeless the design of Agito is. That thing's almost like 20 years old, and it looks fucking like still the great. Well, it's one of the greatest, or if not the greatest suit. Like it's so timeless.
It's a really solid suit. Uh, and like seeing Agito fight again is just like it's great to see him get into action. Especially with like the new camera work of like Modern
Yeah,
Rider.
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, I mean, it's nice that they added like little CGI stuff too. I mean, well, that's more of like Trinity form when he does his like finisher, but yeah, like the new camera work is nice. The like enhanced clarity of HD actually does really. I mean, the suit still looks so nice in it. Um, and then just like the fighting styles, that's one of the things I was kind of reading. Because I've looked through some of the comments for like Japanime's video on this episode because somehow he got this episode's review out today,
Good for
which
him.
is yeah, good for him. That's different. But yeah, like the two things I noticed was like people saying like it's nice for like I mean people are kind of excited for like the cameos from past writers now because they finally get to act like common writers, right? Instead of
Yeah,
just being like plot devices like the earlier ones.
that's something
So
I want
that's
to talk
cool.
about. Like,
Yeah, there's that, and then there's a comment about Tsukiyomi, but we'll get to her. But go ahead.
right. So basically, like this show starts out, and you have the veteran riders who appear. They don't do much, and then they lose their rider powers, and Sogo saves the day. And their cameos just kind of fell flat for me. Like, particularly Brave in the X-Aid special. Like Brave literally had no reason to physically appear on camera. They just needed to mention him by name, and that served the exact same purpose. And Emu like X8 almost did something, and then, but ultimately I don't really feel like his contribution mattered. And so that was kind of the problem with the early arcs of Zi-O, which was that like, hey, I'm kind of getting a nostalgic kick out of seeing these veterans make cameos, but at the same time, I'm not getting much out of it. And Zi-O's like own personal storyline is paling in comparison to even that. Like the reason I bring this up is to make the comparison to the other two shows, Decade and Gokaiger. Gokaiger had its veteran Sentai members show up, say hi to the Gokaigers, and either argue with them or be like, "Yo, what's up?" And then eventually accept them as like, "Yeah, you guys can keep the Ranger keys. We should keep them in one place for now." And those cameos felt meaningful. Like even if those veterans didn't do much, like there were even like just simple short scenes of some of them bumping into each other and like saying, "Oh hey, how are you doing?" Like their cameos felt better, and part of the reason of that is because they were still those Sentai members. Whereas early Zi-O, all the riders are like, they lose their memories of ever having been those riders, and you take away what one of the things that made them who they are. Why are they even here now?
Right. That's why I said like the only like one of the only earliest ones that sticks in my head is like the O's one is because like regardless of the O's belt, like edgy is still edgy,
And
you
Dan
know,
is
and
still
that's
Dan.
why yeah, and then it's still then that's why their lessons and their personalities. I mean, like the personality comes through clearly, but like Edgy's lesson can still be taught because he doesn't need his damn belt to teach the lesson that he wants to teach, right?
Right, and like,
Um, and
I
that's sort of the same way like Agito acts in this. It's like I don't need the belt to be me, you know?
Right, and like
Like
I had this revelation during the Ghost special where like Ghost gets his memories back for a few minutes and he henshins and fights and it feels really good. And I haven't even seen Ghost, so there's no nostalgic kickback out of that for me. I'm literally just entertained.
right, and I think it might have just been like a Gokaido situation where it's like as like more and more veteran writers or actors saw that like especially since like Decade showing back up, like it seems like the veterans saw like, hey, I want to come back and like do my show justice. Like they were already bringing the writers back, so they're kind of trying to write in the style of their show, but like it didn't feel the same without having the actors back and like actually acting like the writers. And so like these later ones are really good because you know they're not just like, oh, this is my power, this is the suit, which is like a problem from Decade.
And like,
But
yeah,
like
I was gonna say
actually having the personality, which really helps.
that brings us to
Um,
the decade problem of all right, they have alternate universe of these writers shows, and so you see a version of that rider and you see kind of what they're about, and but it doesn't quite hit that mark story wise. Like,
yeah, the worst part about Decade is it kind of works in what it was trying to do, but the reason it works is such an inside joke that it kind of ruins the fact that it's an anniversary. So like the reason why it's like, oh look, it's Kabuto, or not Kabuto, it's Kiva because and he's literally a child. It's like, oh, that's cute. Because like Kiva's thing is all like growing up and like you know Watcher was basically a kid. So it's kind of like weird inside jokes, and then like their version of Kuga and Ichijo, like Ichijo is like a
it's a
female
woman.
character. Yeah, and then so they could just do this weird like elder sister semi love interesting. I don't know. It was weird. Um, but the point is like yeah, they kind of work as an alternate take, but you have to be super familiar with the show Decade is talking about to get what the fuck this alternate take is about.
But
Because if you don't know, it's a terrible introduction. And if you're not super in the like, oh, I get the joke or I get what this alternate take is, like you'll just be pissed. So it was really badly done.
then you get
Uh,
Trial by Rider as the Ryuki special, and what even was that?
oh, that's just well, I'm thinking of the fucking Blade thing. But yeah, Trial by Writer was so stupid. I think that's because they just ran with that one episode where they're all trying to be salesmen, except then they stuck them into, oh, right, let's just put them in the setting of like a court case or something.
Uh,
Like it kind of makes sense because it's all morally gray and you just got to do the thing. But it's like,
I
yeah, I
guess
could kind of see the setting this could come from,
I
and like the
guess I
ideas you
can
pulled to do,
kind of
but
see
it
like
does.
the moral gray area thing that they're trying to emulate from Ryuki, but they did it in
Yeah,
the dumbest way possible. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
all right,
right. I mean,
we're gonna have a bunch of dudes fight each other, and then whoever wins just gets to decide if this potential criminal is innocent or guilty. Doesn't
well,
matter if you have evidence.
yeah, but then again, that's probably homaging this old thing of like trial by combat thing of like oldish like elitist
Well,
laws
in
that
that
used to be
case,
there.
it would have been nice if what's her face chose who her representing rider was.
Right, that would be interesting. I mean, like, I'm thinking of the Blade one. See, the Blade one works a lot better because it's like, all right, Blade is a Kamen Rider because that was his job. So let's just make board an organization that didn't get destroyed. So now it's like, no, it's literally a corporation and you're literally working for them. So like every kill you do gets you like a higher rank and stuff
Score
within the
points.
company. Yeah, exactly. So like the Blade one works a lot better. But like yeah, the Ryuki one is stupid. I mean,
Like,
it makes sense because we like in Ryuki we spent so much time with like um god damn it, what's his name? The lawyer character,
oh,
Zolda.
yeah, Zolda.
Right. So it kind of makes sense where they could pull because his thing is like he's a black and white lawyer. It doesn't matter if you're good or bad. He'll as long as you got the money, he'll get you off.
Right.
Um
Like, he even
right.
tried
So
getting Oja off on murder and just failed because Oja literally had
is
no
an idiot.
incentive.
Right. Um so that's the thing. Plus, like he, like there's a couple of court cases in Ryuki that happen. So it's like, okay, I can kind of see a basis for making it thing, but like the entire system is stupid. Yeah. So like the Ryuki one is one of the ones that really falls apart. Um, the Kabuto one's the cooking one, right? Or is that the Hibiki one? No, it's
Uh,
Kabuto.
Hibiki does a music thing. Kabuto, I don't think the Kabuto one even did any cooking in it. Like, I just
No, no, no.
remember,
Yeah.
well, I just remember
No,
Decade.
there is a cooking one, but
There,
it's oh maybe it's Agito actually.
uh, no, the Agito one was like, it was actually one of the better ones where like it's if Agito failed to become an Agito and he thinks he's a monster and is hiding in the shadows.
Oh, maybe. I mean, I'm thinking. Fuck. The Kabuto one was really bad because like Kabuto is constantly stuck in clock up. I'm like,
Right.
holy shit, can you
All I
imagine
really
that
remember is
nightmare?
Decade invading like the Zect headquarters and beating up a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, I don't know. Decade is a weird show. Like, it's not over the years we've kind of realized that it's not terrible, but it's not good. But it's got the other problem. It's got the grind problem of like every almost like every other time. Oh, that's not true. It's got the Baron problem from Gaim of like every other time that character has shown back up after his main show, he's better than him. Right? So like every time Baron shows up, he's great, but like in Gaim, he's not that great. Like he's okay. But like Decade, every damn time he's shown up after Decades ended, he gets better and better. And Kaito's always awesome, so like he doesn't really have to change that much. But yeah, it's just one of those weird situations. Um, Back to Agito in
Uh,
Zi-O though.
right. So my point is that now in current Arc Zeo, we are getting plot lines that incorporate those writers' actual stories. Like, those writers come in, they are still those writers. They even fight a little bit themselves, and it's good. It's a lot better than what we were getting, and it even incorporates Zio's own story into it in a much better way than the bullshit we were getting in the first arc, where Soga was just nobody. Like, it feels like there are actual stakes now, and it feels like this matters. Uh, and yeah, like people were complaining, had like the comparison of like, oh yeah, you're complaining that the riders in Zio don't do anything, but they didn't do anything in Gokaiger. Well, in Gokaiger, those veterans did do something, and even without those cameos, like Gokaiger was still a good show. But the first arc of Zio wasn't a good show even with the cameos. Here, now it is, this is the kind of thing they should have been doing from the beginning. Like, imagine the XA tribute we could have gotten if it was made now.
right? I mean, like, you know what the worst part is? Then we could have just had the arc of the blue time jacker be like become like one of their allies or something, because like that would have been like the perfect X-Aid tribute thing, because like X-Aid basically befriends almost like all of his enemies, or at least gets them on his side for the most part. Um, but that being said, like, yeah, the beginning arc of Zi-O is not great. It's mostly because they were so like, okay, we just gotta do some random anniversary shit, and plus they were not doing any character development for their cast. So like the reason Zio's been really good is it's finally gotten back into its own plot, and like all the characters got like their own storyline. Like all the crossovers got like the Agito two-parter is a Tsukiyomi storyline, right? Like the
Right,
one before that like a was one, and the one before that was like uh, Gates, and the one before that was Sogo, right? So like all the like two parters and crossovers actually built up on their characters. So it feels like the show's finally going, because like this is what the damn show should have been to begin with.
right. Like, Theo's tribute was like, oh, like, here's Sogo following Dan around, learning how to not be a demon king. It's like, that, it, I don't know, like, I just saw that outcome coming so far away that everything Sogo was doing up to that point made no sense to me. Like, if we had actual Edgy, like, being having been the writer and having gone through all that shit with Ankh in like their whole controversy, having Edgy like give him advice about getting along with someone you who is technically your enemy would have really hit the mark.
Right? I mean, that's the worst part, is because most of the shows, like most of the Heisei Rider shows, have like really interesting lessons that they could impart, especially because like Zio's situation is this really weird, like gray situation, right? Because like, well, who's in the right? Like technically, if they want to prevent a fucked up future, like they should just end Zio. But it's like it's a Rider show, that's not gonna happen. But it's like, okay, well, how far do you go when that plan fails of trying to save this guy who's gonna become a demon king? Like, you then go like, fuck it, my like humanity is my weakness, and cast it aside and go back in time. Like, there's so many like interesting lessons that like the other writers could impart, right? Like O's thing of like, yeah, let's just work with the enemy way. Or like Kiva's thing of like, you don't have to follow your like path laid out for you, and Kabuto's thing of like, have the strength to walk your own path. And then like like Agito, it's like your your past doesn't define you. It's who you are, and what future you decide
Like,
to like make is the future that's important,
build
right? Like, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
build like was literally in the same position as gays, where like, hey, I have justification to just straight up kill Cross Z because evil is a part of him, and that's dangerous. Like, it could literally bring about the end of the world. I have justification to kill him, but Build like stood up against that part of him. He justified not doing it, and so him giving that kind of pet talk to gays about like, hey, you should trust in Sogo, would have made for a better Bill tribute than Bill not even being in the tribute.
Right. And honestly, I think like weirdly enough, like the Gaim one kind of did an okay job, because it's weird. Like the Sogo and like Gaim part was stupid, but like the Gates and Baron part was fine, because Baron's basically like, what are you gonna do? Just give
Yeah,
up?
like
That's your solution?
Kaito just calling gays a bitch for the entire episode was the
Yeah,
best.
pretty much exactly what he needed, right? Like that's great. Um, like Edgy just being a good, decent human being is great. So that's the problem. Then you run into like, okay, why isn't like Forza here? Because this really should have been Kamen Rider Forza. Um, but and then
because
you
he was
run.
filming Bleach. That's why.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then I didn't see the wizard one, but like literally, like wizard is like
They get Nito to appear for like 2 scenes where Nito
what
fights
does he
Gaze
do?
for no reason and then gives him the ride watches.
Oh god damn it, that's awful.
Like they literally do
Like
the whole like I just wanted to test you thing, but it makes absolutely no sense in context.
okay, Nito's not the type of character who does shit like that too. That's even weirder. He's way more chill. Um, I mean, I could
He
see
doesn't
it with
even
Wizard.
henshin either. Like he throws some punches at Gaze that Gaze blocks and then goes, "You're cool."
Oh god damn it. I mean, I get the trope that they're going for, but it's like it's a writer show that doesn't work. Um, I guess they didn't want to like bring out the suit and all the CGI because like wizard writers use a lot of CGI.
But they're also going
Um,
through the whole like justification of he's not a rider anymore because his ride watch was already created, so that had his powers in it.
uh, yeah, that's stupid.
By the way, there's a
Um,
beast watch that has never been used.
oh my god, if they actually wait and pull it out at the end,
Well,
just like a
like
wizard.
there's
Oh,
also a
have you seen
cross
Wizard?
watch that has never been used. Like there are secondary
Oh
rider. There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
chalice watch that we just got a few episodes ago. There are ride watches that exist that are being ignored. Like I was totally looking forward to the idea that like the secondary riders were also going to have their own ride watches in like suits. Uh, but
Yeah, I mean, like,
it's been
there's
thrown
so
out the
many of
window.
them.
Like like
Yeah, that sucks.
like not just like only the secondaries. Like 2 riders per show is what I was thinking.
Okay.
But we didn't even
Uh,
get that.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, that kind of sucks because, like, literally you could have had the main and the secondary
Like
powered by that, but I'm like, I guess it'd be a little too much like Decade if we did that.
it didn't even have to be relegated to like them using those particular ones though. Like you could have still had like oh hey Gaze uses the wizard watch and Sogo uses the beast watch.
I mean, it's fine, but I think the issue is they didn't want to make, like, 40 pieces of armor.
I get it from a production standpoint, but then don't have those watches even exist.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right?
Don't
I mean, no, no,
don't
no, we can't
suggest.
have that because Bandai, how are they gonna make all their money?
They can sell the toys, just don't show them on the show itself.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the worst part is like I was thinking like, okay, what lesson could Wizard impart? But I'm like, Wizard's a cool dude, but actually choosing Beast was a better thing because Beast's thing is like
Hope
his
and
catchphrase
despair.
is like, yeah, it's like a pinch is a chance, right? So it's basically like, uh, well, you have a problem. Well,
Sorry,
it's not a
despair is
problem.
hope.
It's just a so. Yeah, yeah, exactly, right. So it's like, it's literally like a great lesson where it's like, oh, you think you can't beat like the Demon King or whatever, and your future is gonna be fucked because you can't kill him. But he should have just been like, well, no, you just should just see it as like an opportunity to make a better future with that guy, right?
Eh,
Because Beast started out fighting Wizard when he showed up because like he needed it to fucking live, right? Like
right.
he needed to kill
Like
the Phantoms to live, but he ended up working with Wizard, so it would have been a good lesson for Gates.
And like, if they could have gone Wizard's actor, like Haruto could have gone up to Sogum and like, if you don't, like, be their hope, like, referring to Gaze and Tsukiyomi, like, hey, they come from a future filled with despair, become their hope instead.
Oh yeah, that would have been good too. Holy
Like,
shit, we just wrote like a a great two-parter. Um, fuck, that would have been
like
so cool.
you could argue that there would be a lot of overlap between the different writers giving effectively the same advice, but it's all about execution and what it means for the character in the moment.
Right, and besides, you don't have to like fully be like, all right, you learned this one lesson, and therefore you've learned it. Like you could just set up like, oh, this is the beginning of your character arc. Like you got the message from Wizard, like be their hope, and it's like, all right, I'll try, bro, but like I don't know how to do that. Then the rest of the show is him getting better at that.
Yeah, like
you know?
you don't just change overnight. Like it's something that you have to work towards and being reminded by all these veterans who've been through this shit like, hey, being a good person isn't easy. It's like it would help build Sogo's character of not becoming the Demon King.
Right? And like the worst part is like, okay, as cool as Ryuga was, and the whole like Mirror Wolf Sogo like slapping him around and be like, "What the fuck did you think was gonna happen, you dumbass? You're running around with this power. Don't pretend like you don't like it. Like you haven't changed anything, right? Like as much as that like slap in the face was right, I kind of wish like Shinji would have also just told him like, "Hey, dude, it's fine. As even if you don't have the right answers of how to become the Demon King or whatever, like as long as you keep trying, that's all good. But yeah, like Mirror World Sogo is also important, so I guess that's kind of a toss up about like which moral do you think is important. I guess it would have kind of been redundant, so like having Mirror World Sogo just calling him out on his bullshit was better. Eh. Um, and then like the Fies thing, Fies is weird because it's really complicated, and it's like, well, which lesson do you throw out, right? Like, there's a million lessons. Um, but like, I guess having it done early on was good too because it's showing like you can still work with the guy who's not super friendly to have like a better outcome, right? I guess if they wanted to go with that message, especially because like the Fies stuff was early on, it could have worked. You know what the weirdest one is? Why the fuck are we getting a Hibiki thing? And
Uh,
it's the Hibiki meme of work hard, and literally its next episode is them just like fucking
okay.
lifting weights and
Well,
shit.
do you know who's returning?
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh my god, you got around the Hibiki not showing back up by putting in the Hibiki that nobody wanted.
Got him. I mean, uh, so
I
like,
mean, to be fair, he's a
okay,
different Kamen
okay,
Rider also.
okay. Yeah, Zero knows. So okay,
Yeah.
I like I don't want to get into a big discussion about Hibiki, but let me just put my opinion out there now. Uh, when I started Hibiki, I could easily see it like, okay, this is partially like a coming of age show for Asumu, like, and I could definitely see it going in the direction of, hey, he could become an Oni. But like even early on, I was watching and going,
Oh
I
wait. So Asuma's returning? Oh, I thought like the other
no.
kid.
Yeah, the other kid is. But like what I'm
Yeah,
saying
okay,
is
that's what I thought.
Asumu,
Zeranos.
like Asumu's like clearly like, all right, so this is clearly like it could be like how he becomes an Oni. But even as I was watching, I was of the opinion of like, you know what? I don't want to see him become an Oni. I'd rather they don't do that at the end, and that's what I got. Like I like the idea that he just becomes a good person instead, and seeing this other character thrown in that's like he has more incentive to want to become an Oni, which Asumu didn't have. Asumu just didn't was like figuring out his role in life, but he didn't have much incentive to be that kind of hero. Whereas this other person comes
Yeah.
in and he's like a trash character, but he wants to better himself. He wants to pursue a purpose in life, a
Like he
meaning.
wants to be a hero, basically.
Right.
Right.
He like
And so
is
the thing is um like from a like production point of view, I kind of get why they made that drastic change in the middle because like as good as this like coming of age story is, it's like you're pissing away so much time and this character is not even gonna become Hibiki. Like why even waste this energy?
but
So
like
they had to add another character, but like that was such a drastic shift that I guess it pissed
I
everybody the fuck off.
I don't remember where I heard this, but I heard rumor that like they were both there was a plan for both of them to become an Oni at the end, but they only wanted to make one new suit.
Yeah, see, I never got to the end of Hibiki, so I don't know who the fuck became that.
Right.
Because I was like, I got to the point where like Akira is like, nah, I don't want to become an Oni. I'm like, fuck you, show. I'm turning this right the fuck off because
The
I'm like, Akira and like Ibuki were like my favorite duo in that damn show, right? And I'm watching this, and like the second half is happening, and like Ibuki's character is getting like turned into this like rich retainer asshole, and like Akira is getting like more and more driven out of the plot to being like, I'm like, this whole show is built up on her becoming a fucking Oni. Why are you writing her out of the show now? It pissed me off so much.
But
And I'm
like,
like, you know what? Fuck it.
my point is that
So I never got to.
I was more satisfied with uh, Kyosuke becoming an Oni over Asumu than most fans were. Is my point.
Yeah, I mean, like, I could see him becoming, like, he has more of a drive. Um, but, like, the decision of, like, taking Akira away from the Oni path just, like, pissed me off so much I couldn't care less. Like, I was fine with, like, alright, you're introducing a new character, show's going in a whole different direction. It's not the nicest shift, but we're doing it. And then you go and like piss away all the goodwill of like taking the one character I wanted to see succeed away. I'm like, yeah, no, no, we're done.
All right. So
Especially because like the one decent female writer um, we could have had,
yeah.
and like built throughout basically from the beginning of the show, and like near the end, like nah, she's gone. I'm like, ah, fuck you. That
Well,
pissed me off so much.
we'll definitely get more into this next week when we're at Hibiki's special. But for now, we barely talked about Zi-O. Uh, Getting all that like preliminary, like how I feel about Zi-O now versus Zi-O then stuff out of the way. I like the direction the show is in now. Um, so the other two time jackers, Aura and Uru, show up because they're not okay with Schwartz acting on his own anymore because they're afraid of what he might do. Uh, and they tackle it by showing him up, basically. Like, hey, we're gonna make ourselves involved and show him that he needs us. And they successfully steal Agito's power.
Right, like this whole like Agito stuff is super annoying because I'm like, that's not how Agito works in Ryuki, or not Ryuki, Agito. But for this plot, I guess it was fine. But them actually getting so involved so quickly and like taking control of the situation was a nice surprise because like I kind of thought that like Schwartz is the guy that had like everything under control, but like yeah, this is like the first time we've seen like three time jackers like just
Do
doing their
anything
own shit.
together.
Yeah, and it's like fuck, the writers are absolutely dead if they get serious and work together. Like we can't stop it
Like,
because yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's a shame that the time jackers still don't have any character.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it seems like we're with this like new Tsukiyomi plotline and Schwartz is like hinting and stuff. We're kind of gonna get more character stuff because like in this episode, it's revealed that Schwartz is the one who gave the other two time jackers their
Right.
powers.
We're definitely gonna get
Awoke them.
character for
Yeah,
Schwartz, but like we were teased on character for uh, and we still that
yeah,
still
yeah.
hasn't manifested.
That kind of annoyed me too. I'm like, oh man. I mean, there's like 20 episodes. We can get like a 5 episode run where he turns good.
He doesn't even need
Um,
to turn good because turning
oh well,
he
yeah. Go ahead.
like if he switches to Sogo's side, that is literally everything against his mission. But just betraying the Schwartz is what I want to see.
Yeah, I could
It
see
would
that on
make
there.
I feel like I don't want to see him join Sogo because that's counterintuitive to what he wants to do, to why he joined Schwartz in the first place. But realizing that Schwartz isn't a good option either is what I want.
I mean, for a time being, I thought he was gonna team up with like White Waz, and they were just gonna make their own faction. That would have been interesting. Or like if Sogo, like if the Time Jackers were treating him like shit, and like Sogo treated him nicely, that would have been interesting. But like yeah, at this point, the only option is he's just gonna betray Schwartz, or we kind of get like Tsukiyomi joins the Time Jacker side for a bit, so we kind of get that weird like O's thing of like Punk is living in the mansion with all the other greed, so he kind of rubs off on them, sort of thing. Oh well, I mean, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean
Right, I know.
from later
Yeah.
on in O's.
Uh, so they take Agito back to the clock shop where Uncle whips him up a meal. All super nervous because hey, Agito is a professional chef, but Agito likes it, so it's cool. And then Agito like turns to Soga and says, "All right, so you needed my rider powers to become king. Sorry, I lost them."
I love how after like a free meal he says that. I'm like, ah, nice job, sweetie. Plus, soft tofu or whatever. I'm like, oh man, they know and everything.
He picks it
They
up
know
like an expert,
exactly.
though.
Oh, he sure did. I'm like, oh my god, all these years, skills still sharp. Hikawa just like, ah, I'm stabbing this thing. Oh my god, if you saw Hikawa, it would
Oh
have been in
man,
that scene.
Hikawa stabbing the tofu gives me life.
Yeah, I know, it's so good. Holy shit.
Uh, uh, Sogo and Gaze try questioning Tsukuyomi about her backstory, and she runs away.
Yeah, that was unexpected. I mean, well, not unexpected, it's more just like she's just piecing out, like, yeah, I don't want to talk. I kind of love how it's like, well, literally every other character has done this. Now it's Tsukiyomi's turn to be like, fuck off, I don't want to talk to you people. Um,
Uh,
um, yeah, that was
yeah, so
different. But at least, like, they all just noticed that she's acting weird, so at
right,
least that didn't take
'cause,
too long.
like she froze time in that last fight, and unlike the last time she did, like, hey, this time Sogo and Gaze noticed, so they have questions, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just gonna do that fight, we can go back to it. And it's like,
They're
they just show
yeah,
up and like hold her at gunpoint. I'm like, okay, you can stop time and use a gun. Like,
yeah,
why haven't
yeah.
you been
So
doing this to Soga all this time?
So like for people who don't watch the episodes, the way that like the other time jackers steal Agito's power is they literally just hold a gun to Tsukuyomi's head and say like give it to us, and then they go and take it from him.
I know, right? It's so busted. I'm like, oh my god, this is like you don't realize what you're implying here, show. Um, yeah, that was so stupid. Plus, like, you could just literally just rip Agito's power out. I'm like, that's weird. And then
Like
like
can they
the
do that
other
with like
Agito.
the implication is they can do that with all riders. Just walk at them and say this is mine now.
Right, exactly. Especially considering they can stop time. There's like very few riders who can fight that.
Why haven't the time jackers won already?
Yeah, exactly, right? Um, it's not even like the Hawkmoth situation of like, oh, why is there one bad guy one episode? I mean, per episode is like because that's just his like special ability limit. Like, no, there's three of them. They could do whatever the fuck they want. They can stop time and go back and forth in time. So it's like, literally, why haven't they won at this point? Um, it's just a disorganized, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty busted up. Also, like just taking the Agito power and being like, all right, here you go, another Agito or another Agito Omega. You are now Agito, and it just turns into normal Agito. I'm like, oh god, it doesn't. Okay, Agito does not work like that. I mean, yeah, you can say, well, it's the perfect form, and then like the watch is giving the weird like hyper multiply ability. It's so weird having this after Blade too, because like Blade is, oh look, dark roaches, and then this episode, oh look, another Agitos. I'm like, this is literally the same fucking thing, right? Uh, it's so stupid. I mean, their plan was interesting for some weird reason. Like, it shouldn't have worked in normal Agito timeline, but in this weird version, it's like, yeah, we'll just turn all the humans into monsters, and we'll just keep making more and more until we like Zerg Sogo and win. And I'm like, well, I mean, technically that's a plausible plan. And then like the
It's a
fights
plan.
happen, and they just like freaking wipe everyone away, like 20 people in like single attacks. I'm like, all right, those were like normal human beings. Like you just turned them to dust, right? This
Hmm.
isn't even like oh no, they just got knocked out or something. No, they're dead.
It's
You've
it,
just killed people.
it's fine. He's gonna become the greatest, kindest demon king.
Yeah, well, I'm fine with that asshole not thinking about it. I'm more worried about Agito. I'm more worried about like what you gonna get more amnesia, Suichi, so you can forget you did this shit? Like, what the hell was that? Like, jeez. Like, I mean, I get it. Normal mobs, fine. Dark roaches, whatever. No, these are literally freaking like werewolf, vampire, Agito things, right? And
Uh,
you just murdered. This was more
okay,
murder than fucking Amazons at
okay,
this
but
point.
like, the last episode did show that when they defeated another Agito, he just turned back into a dude.
Yeah, he turned back into it, but this time they just like all the people who got infected turned into dust or like gray smoke when they were just like cutting them down.
Like in Fies.
No, well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like the sand thing, but they don't turn into sand; they just explode into like gray dust or like smoke. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I was thinking, oh, they're just gonna knock them out, or they'll just like I don't know, get knocked out or something, and then once they take the watches back, everybody would change back to normal. But that didn't happen. They're fucking dead, bro. Like, yeah, like I said, like more murder than fucking Amazons at this point. Like, what the hell was that? I, I'm thinking that's just an oversight because like they're all CGI, so they're like,
Right.
well,
Like,
we don't want to actually pay for the
we,
mobs to turn back into humans because that's
we,
extra CGI, so
we
we'll
just
just
want
wipe
to
them
we
away.
just want to entertain the kids with mindless action and sell toys, but
Yeah,
also
I know,
have
but
a really good tribute fight.
yeah, I mean, that's like the
But
second fight, but like whatever, it's
but
fine.
yeah,
Like,
before we get that, we
I
have some other things to talk about.
yeah,
uh, so Agito overhears like the concerns about Tsukiyomi because she lost her memory, and hey, he can relate to having lost his memory, and so he gives them the advice that worked for him. Just treat her, just be a friend to her the way you have been. Like, what's the problem?
right. That was pretty good advice. I was just thinking of the. I was gonna make the chalice joke. No, run away, pretend to be your doppelganger, and make takoyaki, and have have a showdown. But I'm like, no, that
Okay,
was
that's
last
like the
episode.
most out of place episode of Blade, though.
Yeah, I know.
Like, the tone
And
is
the best
so
part,
different from the entire rest of the show.
yeah, the worst part is like, oh, okay, so people who don't know, okay, this is one of those like just throwaway episodes for the most part, so I don't mind spoiling this. Um, right, so like Chalice decides like, okay, fuck this, I'm just gonna
No,
leave,
no, Chalice gets
right?
amnesia.
Yeah, and then he gets amnesia because he gets into a fight, and then, um, like some girl finds him because she thinks he's her
So,
boyfriend,
right,
uh,
like this guy who looks
because
like
he
him runs
literally
into him, and he doesn't want his girlfriend to yell at him, so he swaps places, and she yells at
so he
Chalice
swaps clothes.
instead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like you're like, oh come on, they can't look that. No, here's the thing: they look exactly alike, which is especially weird because Chalice doesn't look like that. That's just the form he's carrying around. His human form isn't that. Like that's just a card that he's using, which means the guy he ran into is the true incarnation of the human undead.
Well, like his descendant.
Yeah, whatever. The point is, like, he ran into the one guy that, like, is basically almost Messiah level. Except he's a stoner asshole. who then gets jealous that Chalice is doing better at his
Right,
job
like
and his girlfriend likes him more.
he tries to go back to get his girlfriend after he finds out Chalice is inhuman, and the girlfriend's like, "Nah, I like this one better. He's tough.
Yeah,
He's a
and
man."
I know, right? And then so his great plan to win him back is like, oh, okay, you took over my food business. So he goes to the rival gang and says, okay, I'll work for your food business, and sets up a shop right beside Chalice. And they have a cook-off battle. I don't know what the fuck was happening in Toei with these like cook-off battles every couple of seasons, but that's hilarious. Um, and then Chalice loses. Um,
Chalice loses because he doesn't care, and then an undead shows up, and he realizes, like, "Oh right, I'm supposed to fight these."
right. And is that like after? Does he meet the music kid after that? Right?
No,
Because he doesn't. He
the
still
music
doesn't.
kid was. This is like the third arc of the show. Like the music kid was like the
Oh God.
first thing that happened.
Yeah, yeah. Fair enough. That's like really out of place. Oh, I get it. Yeah, because he takes off. Because he doesn't want like the family to be in trouble, and he needs
Or
somewhere to live. Right?
right, because one of the undead like straight up plants a bomb in the restaurant, and Chalice is like, "Okay, that's enough."
Yeah, pretty much. Right, and the saddest part is then the damn boat catches on fire, and the kid blames Talos, and like it's weird. That episode's interesting, but it's like it's very like that episode and the like doppelganger episode are like really interesting. Well, I mean, like the music one's more interesting, but they're like really interesting episodes, but they're so like almost not even Blade. They're like some weird episodes from like two other drama shows stuck into Blade.
Remember that time
Um,
some random girl kidnapped Blade?
you mean like basically Blade's love interest?
Eh.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. And then like her plotline was the worst, where it's like, oh, no, I guess nobody gives a shit.
She
Well, me,
wanted so
I'm like Blade is literally getting shot to pieces outside, lady. I mean, I got the sentiment that they were going for, but it's just the way that the scenes are cut together. It didn't make sense because it should be like, oh, she doesn't think anybody's gonna come to save her, right? But then it just cuts to Blade, and then it cuts back to her whining or like complaining about it. Like technically, she doesn't know Blade's coming to save her, so it's like okay, it makes sense. But the way it's shot, it makes her look super selfish. It's weird.
all right, back to Zi-O.
Yeah.
So Agito goes and gives Tsukuyomi like the pep talk of, "Hey, it doesn't like you lost your memories. That doesn't matter because who you are right now is who you are, and that's all you need to worry about." And then he takes her to his restaurant and gives her a free meal.
Yeah, that was really sweet and pretty much like the Agito style, like later Agito. It's like, hey, I'll give you a little bit of advice and here's some decent food too. I'm like, oh, that's so like late game Agito. So that was a nice touch. Also, Mono was there, but she didn't
Yeah.
do much. But hey, at
She
least we got to
like
see her.
it's like when Tsukuyomi is like smiles at the good food. Mon's like, "Yeah, see, you should smile more. Don't you have like friends who want to see you smile more?" Like referring to Gaze and Sogo. And Sugumo's like, "Yeah, you know what? They are my friends, and I shouldn't make them worry about me."
Um, yeah, it's
Like Mana actually she like if you take it at face value, you might not see it, but like she gives like the good advice of helping Tsukuyomi, where I was like, "Hey, I have friends who are worried about me, and I shouldn't do anything to make them worry about me."
oh, this is an interesting point because I didn't think about this, but like Mana did run away in Agito, right? And
Did
then
she at one point?
yeah, she runs away from home.
Hmm.
And she goes and lives with the psychics for a bit, right?
Brings Gil back to life the first time he dies.
Yeah, yeah, I think so, something like that. Um, and then basically, like, yeah, but this is the lesson she kind of gets, which is like, hey, there's people who care about you, come back. right? So I guess that makes way more sense why freaking Mono would be telling that part. I didn't think of about that, but like, yeah. So both like Gates and I mean like uh, Tsuichi and Mana got to relay some decent points. I mean, in their own ways, but like at least yeah, they got something out. So that's
All right. So all the heroes reunite, and like they friendship and make up, and then they go to take on another Agito. Get another really cool group henshin. Uh, uh, Gaze and Waz just like straight up start having like friendly competitions during like the big fight against all the another Agito grunts. Like, hey, let's see which is faster, my time manipulation or your shinobi, whatever.
yeah. I mean, like technically, Gates should be faster
Like
because we saw this matchup.
the literal explanation was Gaze is literally stretching and compressing time.
Right. I mean, we already saw this matchup though against White Waz. So technically, Gates is still faster, but in
But
this
like,
episode, they're like, "Ah, fuck it,
yeah,
just for
let's
fun."
we're doing like a friendly competition thing. Like, hey, like they're friends now.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, this kind of reminds me of like the intro when like the time jackers like stop time, and then like Black Waz still has to do the intro, and then he's like, "Ah, "Fine, whatever, here you go." I'm like, he's so like done with being like Omazio's like follower and doing all this shit, right? Like he's even freaking is like sick of doing the intro, so that was a great touch, right? Like, he like talks back to everyone. He doesn't give two shits about
Right.
like Gates. Now he's even sick of doing the intro shit. Like
A
he's
few
just
episodes ago, he straight up tells Sogo to shut up.
what?
Well, like a few episodes ago, Gaze and Waz are arguing about what happened, something that happened between them in the past, and Sogo goes, like, hey, you keep saying the past, but don't you isn't it technically the future? And Waz says, that's complicated and just stop talking.
Yeah, pretty much right. Like at this point, I think he's just stopped doing the Demon King thing. It's like, all right, fine, I'll help this idiot, but like he's clearly not gonna become my Demon King, so whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Also in this fight, the whole Waz is like, "Oh no, Trinity form! There's another Trinity
Yeah,
form! I
so,
have to do a speech." I'm like, "Oh, that's so cheap."
so
But like
like,
everybody's super sick of his shit.
they get Agito's Rider Watch back, and Sogo passes it to Agito. And so this is where we get the big moment. Zi-O activates his Trinity form, and Agito's like, yeah, I have something like that, and activates his own Trinity form. So like Waz like does an announcement speech for their Trinity, and then sees Agito and goes, "You as well, like get in on this."
I know, that was really fun. Um, I mean, this is the original Trinity form, right? So it's cool to see it alongside it. Plus, like, they have a really interesting fight, kind of. Like Agito gets more special effects added to his finisher, so that was cool. They also did a dual rider kick, which kind of incorporated like the Agito like slow down slam thing, and then like diving through the crowd
While
with the
Believe
CGI.
Yourself is playing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was fucking great.
Like whoever decided to use Agito music this episode, why didn't you think of this sooner? Use more classic Rider music in this tribute series.
Exactly. I mean, like we've had some, but like
Like,
lately it's really been hitting it
I
out
mean
of the
that
park.
that is idealistic because licensing and all that, but still, like whoever made
Kind of.
this happen, like great job.
Yeah. I mean, especially considering like these music pieces were mostly I don't know about the songs, but like I guess there were inserts and stuff, so there's no guarantee that they were specifically writer oriented made like some of the more modern ones. But yeah, you're right. Licensing is probably the major reason. especially in Japan, man. Licensing is such a pain in the ass. But that fight was great for the most part. That finisher was awesome. Agito getting to be more awesome was great. That suit still looks so good. I mean, them having fun with it is pretty cool too.
And then
Um,
uh,
yeah. Next.
after the fight, Agito entrusts his ride watch to Sogo. Gaze even asks, like, "Are you sure about this?" And Agito just goes, "Yeah, why not? I've never met a king before."
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like this is like later on Zio where like Zio acts like a decent human being instead of the fucking somewhat crazy person he was in the beginning. So like, yeah, I would kind of trust this kid to kind of do the right job now, but not at the beginning of this show.
He's been,
Um,
yeah, Sogo's been a very different character ever since he cheated on his final exam.
yeah,
Sorry, I'm not
and
gonna
now like
let
it
that
all,
go.
oh, it's too good. Um, yeah, what I was actually thinking is like, oh, so we get confirmation like, um, if you just give the watches back to the riders, they just get their powers back, which would
Like,
explain like how like this is gonna be a Gokaiger situation where at the end they're just gonna give their powers back, right?
uh,
Um, or
possibly.
or like or like Decade where it's like or like Decade where it's like yeah the
Uh,
world we're gonna end, but we've decided nah fuck that we're gonna
like,
make our
like,
own world
so,
and flip
yeah,
it.
it's like all the individual worlds, because they're all their own universe, ended because they collided into each other, and from that collision, a new world was born where it's like, all right, they all exist in this one world now. Decade has like three endings, and only one of them is good, and it's not that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. Um, well, I guess that would explain why there's so many ways you can wipe out the dinosaurs. Um, oh man, this is continuing from that Sentai talk. Oh, this is good. So yeah, if somehow you listened to our insane
Yeah,
Sentai talk yesterday of
if you,
like why what's with the dinosaur Sentai? Yeah, it's
it's like,
because well technically to fuse all the writer continuity you have to go back to like when the world was made, which would probably be before the dinosaurs, right?
man, how metal would it have been if there was a dinosaur undead?
Oh man, holy shit, that would have been really interesting.
Like, I never thought
Um,
about this until now, but that was totally missing from that show.
Holy shit, that would be so cool. Okay, next whatever movie or Blade, I guess. The fucking dinosaurs are sick of humanity's
Bring us Rider
bullshit.
Time Blade with a dinosaur undead.
Oh man, that would be so interesting. Um, yeah. I mean, technically, like humanity didn't cause their downfall, but I'm pretty sure they'd be pissed.
It's like,
Yeah, that's
why does
an.
every other losing race still get to exist in this world? Why were we the only ones?
um, yeah. Anyway, that would be really interesting. I mean, well, it'd be a really fun crossover. You know what? Cross it over with the with um, freaking Bardon's Undead Army. So Z Cross villains, because they're fucking basically based on the um, like because Z Cross only had like modern Shocker is like, hey, we've come back and like villains from all the past shows just show up, right? And they're part of the Shocker army. Like that used to be like because Z Cross only had one movie, and like his movie had like monsters from all the old organizations. So that used to be their thing. But then we made like Kamen Rider Tyson, I think, where it's like no, they have their own gimmick, which is like they're the army of the undead and stuff, and they have like more of this like giant monster dinosaur thing going on because like Great Leader had this dinosaur phase. Um, but that's also a thing taken from fucking Cyborg 009 because there's this arc where they go like where they think they beat like Black Mask, but like Black Mask is just pissed off to like this underground like society thing and is trying to take over there. So it's like, well, I mean, like if you want to do run with this dinosaur undead thing, that's probably like the thing you want to team them up with, especially because they got this whole like undead thing going on, and like Blade's whole thing is undead, so that would be a crossover.
All right. So thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with Power Rangers Beast Morphers and possibly back on Saturday for a special podcast for the Rider Time specials. Still need to get confirmation from other people to see if they can do that. So, thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. This was really solid. Like Zio's really
Oh yeah, we forgot to do
turned the
final
show around.
thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but like it's weird because like Blade and Agito, I could see storylines like Hibiki. Like I like why. I mean, I get it because it's like, oh, the actors are coming back, but I'm like, this
Well,
this should have been like at the middle point or like beginning of the show. It feels like this type of storyline is coming far too late to be needed. Um, but hey, we're getting the two writer actors who always come back whenever you ask them, so that's good. And they're also used to being Hibiki, so hooray, I guess. Yeah.
so
Hopefully, it doesn't derail this, line of good episodes we've
right,
gotten.
this like good path we've been on. Yeah, this was a really solid episode and easy contender for best uh, tribute. I'm hesitant to say best episode of Zi-O, but easy contender for best tribute. Like this was more solid
Oh,
than the
you know
Blade
what?
one.
Yeah, which is interesting. We didn't talk about one thing, which is like the whole Tsukiyomi thing. Like, what do you think's
Oh,
going on there?
oh, right. You're totally right. So based on the way Schwartz is acting, he clearly knows who Tsukiyomi is. So I'm guessing she's either his long lost sister or somehow his daughter.
Oh,
One of those is a really stupid idea, but I'm leaving it on the table anyways.
that's interesting. I was thinking it's more like she naturally has the ability, so she's either from someone who naturally just has the ability, kind of like how the Decade Riders just have the dimension folding thing going on, or mostly Decade. And I don't know how Dion got it, but
You,
sure, whatever.
you,
But or it's like somebody from the original timeline, and they had like the time powers.
so
So
you just reminded me of a point I wanted to bring up that I completely forgot about. Continuing the Agito parallels, uh, Schwartz dominantly wears black and Tsukuyomi wears white.
oh, so we're doing this. Yeah, maybe. So she's
Maybe,
got like kind of an Agito thing going on. I mean,
maybe.
that'd be interesting.
For
Yeah, I was actually like, if we're just going into crazy fringe theories here, like, I was like, hey, you know that intro, that like super enthusiastic announcer? Doesn't that sound like somebody giving the same shit that Black Waz normally does? Right? I'm
uh,
like, yeah, it is. It's like a proclamation type thing, right?
right.
But I'm like, doesn't that sound like Schwartz?
I don't know. I'd have to
Yeah,
go
I
back and
feel
listen.
Yeah, I feel like it's just Schwartz because normally he's super reserved or like kind of ticked off, but we've never heard him like super excited and stuff. So I
Right.
feel like it's almost like Schwartz, or maybe they just changed it for the new intro. So it sounds like maybe Schwartz, when he decides to become a good guy, like at the end of the show or whatever, and he's doing the intro.
Schwartz is the main antagonist. He's not becoming a good guy.
Well, no, I mean like once we beat him or like reset the timeline or whatever, right?
Right.
But who knows? Oh, right. This kind of reminded me of the comment I was reading. So like Zi-O is like the inheritor to become like the Demon King, and what the hell is Gates like? Power beyond time or something?
Uh, he can stretch and compress time, so he can
No, no, no. I know, but like the title, like
oh,
basically their title.
I don't
So
know.
like yeah, because like his watch is supposed to be stronger, so it's something like power beyond time or something, right? And then I was reading the comments, and they're like, yeah, so Tsukiyomi is the inheritor of the power of Kronos. So I'm like, oh man, that would be so funny from Xaid, because it's like it's literally the same fucking effect with all the green and the staticky stopping stuff. Oh man, that would be so funny. See, this is the other problem. If we had done the X8 thing later on, this would make way more sense. I mean, at least we had the Kabuto thing, so we could kind of address it, and the drive thing coming up. Actually, I saw a really interesting suit. I think that's the new like Kamen Rider Brain suit, and holy
Oh,
shit, that thing looks nice.
yeah, we're getting one more future rider so that Waz can get a final form because he doesn't have one.
Oh, interesting.
Like all of it, his three forms, like his rider watches right now are basically like on the same level as each other. So when everyone else tensioned into their strongest forms, like Zi-O 2 and Gaze Revive, like he just became Kikai because that's the last one he got.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good call. Technically, it should just be Shinobi. It's the most fucking useful one,
Right, he
but
immediately changes to Shinobi afterwards.
right. I mean, it's weird to actually get like
Yeah,
three riders with
yeah.
three final forms, because usually it's like the main one and maybe a second.
Yeah, we don't normally
To
talk
get like
about spoilers, but Ginga is coming, and it's probably going to be like on the same level as the other future watches, but it'll probably just like be like technically be stronger.
yeah. All I heard was Ginga. I'm like, what? We're getting like Ultraman powers now. We're ripping shit so far from the future. We're ripping it out of another franchise.
Probably.
Um,
All right.
um, but yeah,
Uh,
that would be interesting. Like, I don't even know what the hell kind of power that thing would have, because I don't know anything about the spoilers. So I guess we'll have to see.
uh, well, let's see here.
Well, because we got like the magic slash writer, so that's like the ninja stuff going on, right? We got the robot writer, and then we got what, like the logical one. So I'm like, what other writer trope is left?
I don't know. Part of the
I mean,
suit is
unless Ginga is like straight up magic, then
well,
like yeah,
his
maybe.
helmet is retooled from Mage.
Oh, okay, straight magic. So yeah, that would explain it, because like it's either like you got monster or straight magic are like the only two types left. Hmm.
We'll have to
But then
see.
again, like yeah, yeah, we'll have to see. Anyway, thanks for joining us,
Yeah.
everyone. We'll catch you
Bye.
next time.